Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to our Natural Health News live show. Welcome, all of you. I am your hostess, Dr. Melissa Gallagher, and I'm very excited. Every Friday is our Q&A Friday Live day where I answer your questions. And I have a series of questions, a whole bunch that came through on Instagram. So I got our Instagram questions here, a whole bunch on our feed, and then several in YouTube on our community tab. So welcome all of you. We've got a lot of news to cover. Actually, a very significant report that's come out specifically about COVID and brain health and potentially devastating brain damage and impact on your brain. So stay tuned through this live show. I'm going to share with you that breakdown from a neurologist here in the US. And most importantly, we're going to dig right on in to the news. So it's kind of chaotic. We've got a lot of stuff happening. And to be honest with you, we are seeing significant growth in 3 core states, Texas, Florida, and California. Record all-time high yesterday as a country. So buckle up, friends. We are in this second surge in the first wave, and I'm not seeing an end in sight right now. So I always want to try and be honest. I want to try and be positive. And so today I'm going to dig into some numbers, but most importantly, we're going to also talk about some information and research that might be coming down the pike that can help all of us. So let's dig into the numbers. The world's at 9.6 million cases. So we're encroaching 10 million soon. It's just, that's so insane. The US has 2.5 million. We just passed 500, an additional quantity of people that made it 2,500,000. And we see Brazil's at 1.2 million, Russia's at 620,000, India's at 491,000, and Delhi is starting to reach the capacity in the healthcare system. So we are definitely seeing the impact in India. And so there's going to be ramifications globally to all of this. I just also want to remind everybody that, first of all, if you're not wearing a mask and you don't have a mask, please click on some links down below. I have a friend who is making masks. She's making high quality masks. They are perfect for everything we need to cover. They've got 2 layers and insert for filtration. They are tie, so you can adjust them and cinch from here in the bottom. So I have a really long, narrow face. Hers allow me to fit my face better than some of the standardized masks and that are fit for everybody. The ties have been proven to be most effective. And then the material is important. You want 2 layers and you want a thicker cottony type of material. It's breathable. It's actually very comfortable. And she has an insert where you can adjust around the nose. So do click on those links. If you don't have a mask, please buy several. You want at minimum a pair and a spare. One you can wear, one you can have washing or being cleaned. And then nowadays, you might want to have some extra pairs around for your friends. If you are socializing, I'm seeing a lot of people communicating. They're just going to start giving them out to people. But it is critical. Mask wearing is essential. Whether it's mandated in your state or not, we need to really take this seriously. Now, the other thing that I want to highlight here is some information about the state. So California, let me just go down some numbers. And by the way, for all of you joining, thank you for taking time, spending this morning with me. I'm grateful. If you are a lover of my content, please give me a thumbs up. And if you are new, welcome to our community. I hope you'll hit the follow and subscribe button, whether you're watching on the live or the replay. I want to bring you into our community and you're part of our family. And it's a great family, especially our live chat on YouTube. Pat Wagner and her husband Ron are so great and moderate and keep out some spammers. So I'm grateful for Pat and definitely do message Pat. She's so fantastic. So just going down the states, I just want to highlight some important components. Just to really go again, about how bad yesterday was. A bad day in the world of COVID in the United States. We had our worst day in terms of positive test recordings. We are also seeing greater percentages of people who are getting testing positive. The CDC director made a statement yesterday that the cases for sure are higher than what we're even testing. He made a particular quantity prediction that it is 10 times, that we have 10 times more people who are walking around with this disease and this virus that are infecting people than are being tested. So that means, he said, cases may be 10 times higher, which would mean for every one person who tests positive, you multiply that by 10. And that's the potential outreach or reach. So let's say, for instance, Florida, yesterday, they had just over 5,000 cases. That was we're just hitting record highs in these states. So for 5,000 times 10, that's a significant amount of people that probably don't even know that they have this virus. And God forbid if they're not wearing masks and they're out shopping, socializing, hitting the bars, the beaches, shopping, and being in work settings and not taking the precautions, that means there is a massive amount of community spread. So let's dig into some other details. So California is still the second largest outbreak in the US. We have New York at 390. They've been in this zone. They're on the decline, thankfully. California is on the increase. They're at 195,000. They'll probably hit 200,000 today. They had 5,400, just over 5,400 cases, positive cases just yesterday. New Jersey's at 170,000. Illinois is at 139. They've kind of stabilized. Texas, massive growth. They're at 131,000. And I have to look. I didn't bring down my other notebook yesterday. So yesterday, Texas was at 125,000 cases. They're at over 131. So they had a big record-breaking day. I know a lot of you live in Texas. Texas has some large counties, and we have a lot of viewers in those counties. I want to highlight San Antonio. They, at one point in this first wave of the pandemic, they had some of the lowest case numbers. They were looking great. Then all of a sudden, Memorial Day reopening happens. Boom, 3 weeks, they have had 500% increase. That is blowing numbers out of the water. And they are very concerned that they are going to meet beyond the capacity of a surge ICU. And that's 3 weeks is not a lot of planning when you're in a hospital and you're an administrator trying to plan staffing, space, PPE, all of that. So it's definitely in crisis mode. Okay, so we have Nina. Nina, welcome. I live in Texas, San Antonio. Okay, so I live in San Antonio, K. Jefferson. Jeez. So hang in there, friends. It's going to be a wild ride, and we're not seeing any movement from the state. The mayor, I believe, is trying to implement more procedures, but they've been kind of shackled in terms of, and I know that's probably a terrible word, but they've been, the local municipalities, there's been minimizing of their ability to implement regulations. So let me put that a better way. Okay, so Florida, you guys know Florida is where I grew up. It's where I started my business. We even live in Atlanta now, but everything we love is a lot of everything we love, not everything, but Florida is where our heart is. Florida, they had 114,000 cases. That's Department of Health reporting. It's even higher than that from outside labs. They had over 5,000 cases, and they're seeing massive growth in Clearwater, Tampa, St. Petersburg, Sarasota a little bit, Miami-Dade, Orlando. Orlando is going to be another epicenter. So Massachusetts is at 107,000, Pennsylvania 83,000, Georgia we are at 71,000. So we're moving up. We've had some high days as well, and we are continuing to go on lockdown. Tomorrow, actually, I don't know if you guys see this black thing up here. Tomorrow we're going to talk about UV lights and what all tools you can use and all sorts of details. So if you're a private member, I actually shot a little video for you guys. So if you want inside scoop today, I'm going to post that later this afternoon when I get a chance to edit. But my UV sanitation and COVID, all those details, that was actually pulled by YouTube, censored, based on clinical data too. I had to back up and I still got censored, but I'm going to highlight it because my UV stuff came in. So stay tuned. Definitely tomorrow, you want to join me on the live. I'm going to do kind of live demos, if you will. Okay. So, Georgia's at 71, Michigan's at 68,000, almost, they're like 11 people away from 70 or 69,000. They probably hit already. Maryland's at 65,000, Arizona is at 63. They're definitely increasing. And Tucson's really getting rocked as well. I don't have the percentage growth on that. And I'll make sure I try and find out specifically tomorrow. Virginia's at 59,946. So they're going to hit the 60,000 threshold. In North Carolina shortly. After that at 57, I have no additional news about those high school students, the spring breakers that tested positive that went to Myrtle Beach. I don't have any additional news about the Texas family I reported, I think, yesterday. Oh, man. Birthday party over Memorial Day. Full exposure, 25 family members. 18 as of yesterday morning had tested positive. The father of the birthday girl, birthday woman, her dad is on life support in ICU because of COVID. One of, I guess, the cousins had it and unknowingly infected everybody. So that is just an example of why gathering with parties of more than 10 is not advisable. And it's just beyond advisable. It's irresponsible. It's reckless. It could be potentially fatal for individuals that you might think look fine. They might even think, like, you just might be like, I've got good blood pressure. I don't have diabetes. I don't have any of these underlying health conditions. Totally fine. But that's not how COVID works. COVID doesn't discriminate. And in fact, we see greater cases of people of color, and why I think we're going to see some of the pockets where there's higher populations of people of color are going to be higher cases. Like Georgia, as of a month and a half ago, we had a CDC report that calculated 85% of our cases, particularly hospitalizations and severity, was more prominent and prevalent in the people of color because of a multitude of reasons. And this becomes critical that we understand some of these underlying factors. And with COVID, you could be 10 perfectly healthy and it can affect the body. You can be 85 and be asymptomatic. There's no rhyme or reason. And we're trying to learn more. It's novel. We don't know a lot about it. And because of that, we don't have all of the details. It's a moving target. And it becomes critical that we as citizens make steps and take measures to be healthy and safe. So I'm going to continue to preach that. You know, I know my regular followers, you guys are on board and used to that. But for new followers, you know, I want to welcome you into this community, but I want to be honest with you. You are going to find information that is scientifically backed, clinically driven, epidemiologically focused when it comes to this virus. And we learn more every day, which I'm going to highlight today in some of the research. So there was a poll recently, and I don't know how valid this poll was. To be honest with you, I'm like, who did they poll? Who answered the poll? Because I'm not seeing this in my area. But the poll was asked, I think it was NBC News, asked Americans, how many of you are daily wearing masks? So when you leave your house, are you wearing a mask? 89% of Americans answered that they're wearing a mask in public. Raise your hand if you feel like your area and comment where is not at 89%. I would say our area, we've been a little bit out and about more recently, like driving, doing porch pickups with Facebook Marketplace. And I drive past, you know, the little supermarkets. I want to kind of see what's going on. I don't see people wearing masks. And I would say in our area, it might be 18 to 20% compliance, if that, like 1 out of 5. I think that's pretty generous. So let me know if you're seeing that. The other thing too, that has come out is, this is really, really exciting. I don't have all the details because I just saw it this morning. But there is a lab out of the University of Alabama in Huntsville called the, I think, Bondry Lab. And they have a supercomputer, that kind of Watson-y style supercomputer that can digest massive amounts of data every second, every minute. And what they did is they put in the makings of COVID, the genetic typing, the protein, all the details about COVID. Then they put it against 50,000 natural compounds. So naturally occurring compounds that exist that could potentially, they wanted to find out, out of the 50,000 compounds, are there any that can break the COVID protein? So those little stingers that attach, is there any way to break that to minimize the bond, and as well as to minimize the multiplication of this virus? Well, the supercomputer spit out of 50,000 natural compounds, it put out, I don't have the list, so that's going to be the kind of probably moneymaker for them, but they have a list of right now 125 natural occurring compounds. Mostly, it's exciting for my little herbology kind of love. For all of us in natural healing, natural health, natural medicine, herbology, supplementation that focuses on plants, not synthetic versions or synthesized, adulterated, inoculated substances, compounds. This supercomputer identified 125 natural compounds, medicinal plants, herbs, even ground and oceanic bacteria. Ooh, this is exciting, right? So potentially some probiotics, maybe some prebiotics have a role in helping support our immune system. That is speculative, but they did identify that the ground and oceanic bacteria is part of the 125 compounds that was spit out. These medicinal plants range from plants in the US to Southeastern Asia and include an assortment of fungus. So that is, or fungi. Pretty exciting. So that was really big news. I'm going to be really trying to dig into it. I'm also going to talk with some of my formulator folks that I know in my natural health network to see if they've got any kind of snapshot of what that might look like. But that is really exciting when it comes to some scientific data about medicinal plants. We do know a lot of the pharmaceuticals are derived from plants. They're just altered and synthesized, but this could very well be a critical key. So that's one thing to note. Now, the big news I'm going to share with you today, I haven't posted this link yet, but it's very easy to get to. So this came out of the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease. It is written by and conducted by a doctor. His name is Dr. Majid Fatuhi, and he's medical doctor and medical director of NeuroGrow. It's a brain fitness center in North Virginia. And he works with a lot of folks with brain diseases, lots of MRI scans, very similar to Dr. Amen, if you guys follow him. But he dug into, in this paper, he wrote a review, published a comprehensive review of COVID-19's effect on the nervous system, which classifies brain damage caused by COVID-19 into 3 categories. So this is really critical. He is an affiliate. He's an affiliate at Johns Hopkins Medicine. So he's on staff there as well. He's based in the Virginia, DC area. And basically what it says is that COVID causes brain damage, and there's 3 stages of brain damage. And this data coincides with what I reported, I think 2 weeks ago, about the aftermath of COVID and how there are COVID sufferers that are dealing with like amnesia. Like one husband or a wife or husband didn't even recognize their husband or wife. Lapses in memory, cognitive delays, things that are really kind of unique. And so they break out into looking at these hospitalized patients and the different degrees of brain impairment. And so what he does is this paper is meant to warn other doctors about neurological issues. So neurological symptoms of COVID include stroke, seizures, confusion, dizziness. This is a new one. I haven't seen this. I haven't heard this. Paralysis and coma. Now, I don't know if that paralysis is after, like maybe they feel like, sometimes like neuropathy, people might kind of consider neuropathy to be a little bit of a nervy paralysis, but literally like paralysis of a limb or of the body. So this digs into 3 stages. So they've classified, they call it neuro-COVID. So this is the terminology that this report's put out. And they highlight 2 studies. We have a Wuhan study, and then we have a study out of France. And the French study I mentioned to you guys, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, it talks about ICU patients, 84% of them have some sort of positive abnormality of their neurological exam. So there was definitely some areas where the triggering of the neurological system is not on point. So they call it dysexecutive function, so a downgrading of executive function. It can include or involve poor attention, difficulty with decision-making, and controlling behavior. And they dig into 3 parts. So this neurologist in his brain, it's called, NeuroGrow. It's a brain fitness program. They break out 3 stages. Stage 1, so it's neuro-COVID stage 1. The virus damage is limited to epithelial cells of the nose and mouth. So when people report that they can't smell and they can't taste, they are in this COVID stage 1. That's a neurological dysfunction. The virus has damaged just the epithelial cells. Most of the time, it's transient and it recovers. Okay, so that's stage 1. We all know about that one. Stage 2, the virus triggers the inflammatory response. So a flood of inflammation called the cytokine storm begins. It begins in the lungs. It travels in blood vessels to the brain. So if they are in cytokine storm, more than likely you're going to see those cases in a hospital setting or hear about them. They're on ventilation. They're having blood clots. That's now this phase 2. It moves to the brain. The blood clots cause small or large strokes in the brain. So that is the severity of phase 2. There's some sort of evidence of large or small stroke because of the blood clotting and the small vessels in the brain. Stage 3, this is the major part. And this is the part that we are going to need to be tuned in for any of us who have family members or know people or working with people who have recovered. There's a possibility that some asymptomatic cases are going to cover or fall into some of these stages. Stage 3 is the explosive level of cytokine storm. It actually damages the blood-brain barrier. This is critical. We have a blood-brain barrier, very protective. This protective insulation layer in the blood vessels of the brain gets compromised and it's broken. The question is it repairable? As a result, the blood content, inflammatory markers, and viral particles invade the brain, and patients develop seizures, confusions, coma, and encephalopathy. What they look at is, he says, there are a lot of COVID patients that have no noticeable neurological symptoms, asymptomatic, right? But in some cases, they may present with neurological symptoms even before they have fever, cough, or shortness of breath. Now, this is very interesting because the CDC just recently updated some, and I posted on my Instagram story, grabbed a little screenshot. They've just added 2 kind of new items: type 2 diabetes as an underlying health condition to be aware of, and sickle cell. Remember how I highlighted that last week about the blood type? And sickle cell being one of the factors with blood and the way the virus is causing inflammation. That is critical because we might be seeing folks that are presenting, especially some of our older relatives or loved ones, they might be presenting with some unique forgetfulness. Maybe we think it's the onset of like Alzheimer's or dementia, and it's really COVID symptoms. So they said, in this report, well, this is the other thing. In his report, in his center, he runs MRIs and at his facilities. He's encouraging that any of these folks that are in the cytokine storm, that they get MRIs, that we start to study the brain more and start to see potential impact on the brain. And I don't think it printed out here, but there's a really great graphic I'll post where it literally has 6 different kind of brain images, and the different images related to the different types of symptoms and impact of COVID. But basically, they say that the form of coronaviruses, the previous forms of coronavirus have some sort of long-term effect on people developing depression and insomnia. That's an interesting side effect. Even Parkinson's, memory loss, and accelerated aging in the brain. For COVID, they're looking at, and this is what's great about his work, he's into brain fitness. So he's talking about exercise, circulation, good healthy diet, good healthy fats, nourishing the brain, reducing stress, sleep, all of that. But I'm very fascinated by this research, because I think when it comes down to any of us who may have predisposition to Alzheimer's or dementia, COVID might turn on. That might be an epigenetic switch for the development of those early onset of those diseases. So this is new, big news at a Journal of Alzheimer's Disease that I find that fascinating. So let me know if you have heard any of those symptoms. Maybe you've witnessed this in some family members that you love. But it is very, very interesting. So that particularly, just to kind of recap, highlights here. COVID can kill brain cells. COVID can cause seizures. COVID can cause confusion. It can cause brain bleeds. And long-term, you can have memory loss. Patients can have confusion, cognitive impairments, and even it can trigger or set an individual up for long-term Alzheimer's. So just FYI on that, our brains are critical. The fact that we have evidence and data about the break of the blood-brain barrier is just awful. And we see the leaky gut. It's almost like a leaky brain. I know that's crazy. So, okay, I am very excited. Every Friday is our live Q&A. I've got a lot of your questions here, and I also have up on my other screen, I've got your questions for all of you who posted yesterday on YouTube. So I'm going to start with YouTube, then go Instagram, YouTube, Instagram, and then I'll go to you all, and you can ask lots of questions. Okay, so I want to start with Mary Lou says, hi there, without yet having tested for adrenal or thyroid issues, is taking in acetylcysteine safe and beneficial for anxiety and sleeplessness? Do I need to take it before bed? I hear it's good for boosting metabolism. Is that true? Thanks in advance. So NAC, what we describe in acetylcysteine. So NAC is really powerful as an anti-inflammatory. It is a very potent balancer of a lot of the elements that are involved in like mast cell or POTS. Also with folks that have insulin resistance or some of the kind of beginnings of anti-inflammatory conditions. So generally, NAC is safe. You always want to talk with your pharmacist, talk with your doctor if you are on medications. That's always a factor. I can't make those determinations because I don't know what everybody is taking, but it's definitely something to consult with. When and how to take it kind of depends on your situation, but I do like to take NAC at night or closer to bedtime. And NAC can definitely lower the inflammatory levels, which has a major benefit. So I do love that. Okay, so we've got some questions here. Lori P. 7136 says, I'm taking D3 with K2. Also ordered K2 you recommended. Good to take it all at once. Generally, yes. I mean, I don't know what the dose is on the K2 that you're taking, but usually you can, generally you'll find items like K2 also have D3 in it. So that's okay to take together. Okay. Samira J, when is the best time to take evening primrose oil? Love taking it at night, usually around just after dinner. It's a very good anti-inflammatory, excellent for women who experience PMS. So if you experience bloating, oh my gosh. So like between ovulation and your period beginning, that's the best time to start taking evening primrose oil. And by the way, for pregnant women, you can do evening primrose oil inserts, vaginal insert, like literally just insert the capsule. That will soften the cervix. That speeds up cervical expansion. It's amazing. That's like a tidbit. I wish everyone would know that. You can do those inserts the week before your due date or when you might be delivering or going in. Magical. It'll even break up scar tissue. It's pretty fantastic. Samira says, and the best time to take Shatavari. I actually like to take Shatavari in the morning. just to kind of offset the evening primrose oil, but also because Shatavari has so many different good properties within it to balance. Shatavari, for any of you who don't know it, it is an Ayurvedic herb, and it is used in Ayurveda. It's one of the like master herbs for female health. Great. It gets billed as like the lactation supplement, and a lot of women are like, well, I'm not lactating, I don't need it. But the reality is it's good. It's good for everything. My women with PCOS, endometrial matter, tissue all over their body or in and around the uterus. My women who have irregular cycles, perimenopausal, menopausal, early menstruating, like young, early teens, very, very balancing. It's a nerve calm. It has nerve calming properties. Shatavari is fantastic. And I'm starting to look at starting a medicinal garden. I've started doing, I have some, but I'm literally starting to grow some of my medicinal properties. So another one that I love for women, since we're talking about women's health, that actually I have a lot of. I love this tree. I didn't even realize what it was when we moved up here, and Brian got this. It was a small tree when we got it when we moved for my birthday. He bought me a chaste tree, and chaste tree berries. Chaste tree creates, right now they're in bloom. They're these beautiful trees that have these like purple, I'll take photos of it. I think I might have posted on my Instagram, but has these purple flower blooms, and they're about that long, gorgeous. Bees love them. And then once the flowers have been pollinated, they start to make these little berries. And in July, I've been learning more about this. July is when you harvest. So I'm going to harvest my chaste tree, but chaste tree is fantastic. So if you have a low libido as a woman, it's like women's Viagra. It's hormone balancing. It can, depending on the doses, enhance lactation and can stop lactation depending on what you take. Shatavari is spelled Shatavari. And if you check out my full script store, we have it in there. It's pretty amazing. So go to on Instagram and YouTube, there's the link down below. But on Instagram, you just go to my profile, click on the webpage with my profile. It'll take you right, and you can get Shatavari. It has all the right brands that carry it. Fantastic. Okay. So Matt Mosteller says, are you on the East Coast or West Coast? I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, or just north of. Petronella number one, where can I purchase Happy Breast Balm? On our website, naturalhealthresources.com. If you go to shop a clinic store, we sell that in the clinic right now. What is the best targeted approach for treatment of endometriosis and elimination of ovarian cysts? She says, the gynecologists I've consulted with have only two solutions, surgery or birth control. Very typical. That is an outdated treatment methodology and fails to address the core issues, in my opinion, and I want to prevent another surgery. Okay, totally hear you. I actually have an endometriosis protocol. So I'd encourage you to download that. That actually has everything in it. It's a purchasable digital guide, which, by the way, if you have certain, I haven't covered everything, obviously, but if you have certain health ailments or challenges, I do have digital guides that you can download that have my protocols. And they're very, very extensive. Obviously, they're broad enough to cater to all of the different individuals, but very powerful. It's a culmination of 12, 15 years clinically working with folks. So I'd encourage you, Petronella, to check that out. Matt says, how to lose weight consistently. So weight loss is very individual. It depends on your age. It depends on your hormones. It depends on your metabolic process. It depends on your stress levels, your neuroendocrine levels, your inflammatory levels. So weight loss is one of those very individual aspects that I'm not one of those providers that's like, I've got this end-all be-all weight loss program and it's going to work for everybody, because that's just not reality. What I focus on as a naturopath and what our training is to address the root cause of illness, disease, and imbalance. And when I say disease, we say dis-ease, like dis-ease. There's imbalance within the body. There is usually some multi-layer involvement of your endocrine system. So we have to resolve that. There's always going to be some degree of inflammation. There's going to also then be genes that have turned on, some degree of insulin or glucose intolerance. So diet and exercise can be beneficial. And I'm not against dietary changes and exercise changes. Sometimes that alone doesn't work, and there's a multitude of reasons. And everybody needs a really tailored approach that looks at your chemistry, your biochemistry, your genetic history. Those are the functional medicine practices. That is the guideline that I fall under in terms of how do we treat weight loss. And that's the other thing too. Like, I really refrain from encouraging my patients or anybody I work with who are focused on a number. You can be thin and unhealthy. You can be morbidly obese and have perfect numbers. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. And so it's not always about the number. It's about your health, your mental and physical fitness, your emotional fitness, your biochemical fitness, and balance. So I hope that helps answer that. Okay, Artsy Galore asks on Instagram, I'm working on gut health, but I'm not absorbing minerals and vitamins. What am I missing? So my question to you is, how do you know that you're not absorbing vitamins and minerals? What's the indicator there? Have you had your micronutrient profile performed, which means that you have blood work or some sort of lab assessment of your CoQ10, your zinc, all of your good healthy minerals, your toxic minerals? Have you had that evaluated to see? Then the next question I have, if you feel like you're not absorbing them, how are you taking them? What forms? I like liquid most. I like bioavailability, so then you don't have to worry on the gut breaking down a nutrient or supplement. And by the way, if you guys are loving this content, please give me a thumbs up. I'd love to see YouTube. Lots of thumbs up. I want to thank all hundreds of you on here. So that would be some of my questions. What am I missing? Sometimes we are missing digestive enzymes. Sometimes we are missing the right timing of taking your minerals and vitamins. That kind of depends. So Morris and Monica says, how do you get the minerals evaluated? So that's actually a serum, a blood test. Some labs like SpectraCell, we can run blood serum, and you can evaluate all of those, the good, the bad, the ugly. You can get deficiencies in, selenium, chromium, CoQ10. You can really dig into what needs to be balanced. Let's see. Next question. Katya Spring. Hi, how to treat thyroid nodules for women in premenopause period? ? 3 months, no menstrual. Thank you so much and be blessed. Okay, so thyroid nodules, there's a lot of reasons why we have them. Sometimes we call them goiters. Sometimes they are cysts. They are masses. There's a lot of different reasons behind that. That becomes one of these scenarios where it is very individualized. Sometimes it is caused from autoimmunity. Sometimes it's caused from diet. Sometimes injury. Sometimes there's scar tissue. And, in the very slim chance, some of those nodules can be cancerous nodules. Most of the time, they're benign. A lot of times, they're benign. But the thyroid nodules develop when there is an imbalance in the body between the hypothalamus, our pituitary gland, and then our adrenals. We also see imbalances in the liver. The liver is has glandular functionality as well, where it's synthesizing hormones. So there is a kind of triangle, if you will, of imbalances that need to be addressed. Sometimes it's not just a deficiency in iodine. Sometimes it might be a misfiring pituitary. And in fact, I've had a lot, not just a handful, but a lot of patients I've had to refer out to specialized endocrinologists because their labs and everything that they highlight, they have, and some of this is some intuitive stuff, they have pituitary tumors and not nodules, but maybe a cyst, or the pituitary gland is just not functioning right. So we have to go deeper than just sometimes evaluating your thyroid labs. And so that's not an answer to your question specifically, like, is there a one-step fix-all? No, there's not, because it's so individualized. Okay, Cindy on the note. So Cindy M_423, same thing in thyroid. What thyroid supplements can I take if my thyroid was removed? with RI. I went from hyper with Graves to hypo. Very common. It's like a pendulum. You could be hyper, hypo until it gets balanced. 2 questions on that. With the thyroid removal, sometimes we remove one side or both. Sometimes we keep the parathyroids and sometimes we don't. So that is the big question. How much of the thyroid tissue do you still have? What part of it? And based on that, you can still take supplements. I actually brought in the one that I really love, the Thyroplex. This, again, if you look on my Full Script store, I don't have the specific link to this, but if you just search Thyroplex, this is a Karuna brand. Really, really good quality glandulars. So do check out my Full Script store. And for Instagram, it's up and check out my bio. You can link right there. That would be something where I would take that under the care of a physician or clinician. With the thyroid, you definitely want to be evaluating your labs every 3 months. The thyroid is one of these things, if we're imbalanced, it can be really, really imbalanced. And you don't want to wait 6 months to go see your doctor. Sometimes that is the point. And in fact, malpractice insurance, the biggest points of malpractice are thyroid health. And that's unfortunately one of the reasons why you see a lot of clinicians that dabble in it, but they don't really specifically get into it. Okay, Jingle All the Way says, will you add your mommy cookies? The link that I tried on another post did not work. Oh, I'll have to check. We're kind of reassessing some of our links. For some reason, they're glitchy, like the dry skin body brushing. So it's a project I have on one of my assistant's plates. So we're working on that. Let's see here. Gigi Rena, can I consume lysine with probiotics or vitamins? Yes, you can consume lysine with both. Totally fine. Let's see. BLC Lene says, your skin is glowing. Beautiful complexion. Oh, that's very generous. I feel like I've got some of my sunspots again because I've been outside a lot. And even though I'm putting on like 3 layers of sunscreen, it's still there. What skincare do you use for your body and face? So I use an assortment of items on my face. Sometimes I use a Castile soap. I'm toxic free, green and organic in my skincare choices, especially with my face. I have a kind of winter routine. I have a spring routine and I have a summer routine. And then I'm over 40. So I have my anti-aging, wrinkle-free whole skincare routine. The one thing that I make sure I don't overwash my face. I do enzyme masks 2 to 3 times a week. And I do a lot of anti-aging. I use anti-aging serums, vitamin C. And then the big thing that I think really shows through is anytime I apply, and I have several videos I've shown. If you guys want this in an edited format, let me know. I am on the hunt to find some editors to help me. I am just not able to juggle the schedule of Gabriel home and trying to balance everything to do what my schedule used to look like. So bear with me. I'm trying to work on it. But I always, when I wash my face, after I wash my face, I do a toner. So I wash with cold water. So I get that kind of circulation, pore closing. Then I do a toner. And then I usually, like right now, I use Kypris, and I can post links later on. And I actually have, I think, some discount codes for you all with one of my vendors. I use Kypris, and then I use this one antioxidant serum. It's like vitamin. It's just like natural vitamin E. I use that and then I mix it together. And then how I apply, I do lymphatic drainage. So I always make sure that I'm moving my lymphatics so that I have no puffiness. And then the other thing that I do is I do this process. Usually it's one finger. It happens to be my middle finger. So I'm not trying to flick you guys off, but like a lot of times I will just pat in on the side, and this function enhances your collagen. So like my biggest concern are crow's feet. And if I am dehydrated, you can kind of see it sometimes when I smile and I'm dehydrated, but like normally you can't see any wrinkles. Up here, this is more, I have to work on the muscles, but that also is impactful. So, and I've done a lot of work. I was also doing a lot of facial work for wedding preparation, and then we canceled the wedding. So I'm gonna have to get back into that in and amongst COVID. So I am probably in the next week or two going to do a self micro needling just to kind of enhance the collagen. It's been a little while since I've done any type of facial treatments. I've done IPL, I've done cold laser, O2 laser. So I've just started doing that more recently. Really 40 to 50 is the big time when women go through hormonal changes, their skin starts to change. And so, I keep up on my progesterone. That's really good for skin as well. So that's a little side note there. Okay, so more questions. Francine C23, what is the best solution for vaginal dryness? So I actually have an assortment of options. I actually have several videos on this. Depending on the source of dryness, progesterone is going to be great. Also, you can have inserted, you can insert certain suppositories that will lubricate. Fullscript actually have several. So if you go into Fullscript and type in vaginal suppositories, there's actually a bunch that have good, clean nutrients that will lubricate and soften and cause a little bit more mucus. It improves the circulation. One of the things that happens as we age, vaginal dryness occurs. There's actually, you can get micro tears, after intercourse, which can be very painful. We can get infected. It causes this whole cycle of bacterial infections and yeast infections. And hormones are one part of that. And then the other part is just enhancing your intake of healthy fats as well. So I do like that. Okay, so let's see. Next question. Keisha. Hey, Keisha. Hello, Dr. Melissa. My question is, what causes hirsutism, facial hair on women, and can it be genetic? I wish I could increase this. Somehow I'm on like micro print. Currently attempting to balance with an adrenal glandular and healthy cell multivitamins, as well as other supplementation. Thank you. Okay, so facial hair on women, sometimes it's on the face, sometimes it can be over here or under the chin. And then also we can see a big thing, and I've been trained to like look at people and kind of see tendencies. A big thing for women is that they have really darker, more prominent hair here on the forearm. So that traditionally, yes, there's genetic components there, and there can also be non-genetic, but within your body, you could be dealing with hormonal imbalances. And it is an underlying component that traditionally we identify as polycystic ovarian syndrome. That's a metabolic disorder. And I suffer from that and manage it now, but in my early 20s, and even as a teenager, it was highly prevalent. That can cause some women to have imbalances in their testosterone levels. And that testosterone imbalance tends to be the reason why we see the hair developing in other areas where women don't want it to develop. Underlying elements are the metabolic underlying imbalances. It's inflammation and its orientation, but also we see insulin resistance and glucose intolerance. That can trigger cortisol, elevations in insulin levels. It imbalances and then we see the thyroid imbalances. So that's kind of a multi-layered. I hope that helps you, Keisha. What I most recommend is for you to have your female hormones evaluated plus testosterone. Sometimes we don't get our testosterone pulled. Ask for that. We want to find out what your levels are. Okay. And then 2, you can monitor your glucose, evaluate your A1C is a good number indicator for the metabolic imbalances. And that's like a 3-month marker for blood sugar kind of glucose levels. And then you can monitor your daily insulin or your glucose, fasting glucose. Okay, so Brianna asks, how did detox clear excessive salt and potassium? So my question is, why would you want to do that? And if you are trying to do that, are you doing that because you have values, lab values that are excessive? Or is it driven by medication? Those are your electrolytes. I'm not a big fan of like clearing some of these electrolytes out of the body. Sweat, I'll tell you, and I have some videos coming our way here on the edited version about my sunlight and detox unit. I now have infrared sauna here in our house that's portable. So great. I love it. I used to do this all the time, and it's like, I'm not going there. I'm going to get it in our house. And turns out they have these portable units I didn't even think about, because Brian's like, there is no way you're going to bring one of those like big sauna units. And I actually don't like those. But like this baby, you can put it on your bed. It's pretty amazing. So that I have a few questions about that specifically. Okay, so J Parla 01, thoughts on camps for kids. Okay, so I have a almost 5-year-old. So Gabriel's 4, he's almost 5. Our camps were canceled. I'm looking now today. I'm going to be looking into some additional like online related camps. Like today, he has karate class at 3:15. It's via Zoom, and our karate instructor is awesome. And they manage it so where Gabriel feels like he's in the class. I think there's a lot of factors. If you have an area in your town or, where you're at is not having any spikes of COVID, it's been controlled. You see a lot of people wearing masks. There's a lot of safety precautions. That might be something to consider. But to be honest with you, we are very conservative here, partially because of Brian's autoimmunity. Also because I don't want us to get sick. I don't want to take that risk. So my thoughts are, as a parent, you really need to do a lot of digging, research, understand your area, and then ask a lot of potentially uncomfortable questions. Like, this unit here, my thing is, what's the air quality? What are you doing to clean the air? How are you disinfecting in between kids? And depending on the age, how do you keep our kids socially distant? Even like karate, we're thinking about maybe doing one-on-one in person. And he's like minimally engaged with other people. They just had a kid. They're kind of in the same zone. He's doing almost everything virtual. But Gabriel's a little like, he needs that one-on-one engagement. And we're just not there. We're not there yet. So it's a lot to consider. And that's just camps. Like, it's a lot to also to consider what's going to happen with school for kids. Okay, so next question. Okay, let's see. We've got NW Adventure Gal 09. Love it. Northwest Adventure Gal 09. She says, I was gluten, dairy, and soy-free for about 8 years. My hair went from mousy and drab, grayish blonde to a beautiful light blonde. After allergy treatments, I started eating gluten and dairy and occasionally soy about 4 months ago. My hair is slowly losing its lovely light brown blonde color and going gray. And she's got a sad crying emoji. I am 59 and my life partner is 46, and he's not gone gray and loves my blonde hair. If I go back to the gluten-free, gluten, dairy, soy-free life, will my hair go back to pure blonde? I've heard varying things about this. So that's an excellent question. It's hard to predict, but if you experienced that before, likelihood you will experience it going blonde again. The thing that you have to take into account in the last 4 months is what's happened. We're in a pandemic and there's a lot of stress. So stress can impact the amount of grays people are having. And, like all of us right now, or some of us, like I haven't had my hair done since 2 weeks before the wedding, or 2.5 weeks before our wedding date, when it was all supposed to happen and it didn't. So I'm due up for, trim and, sometimes I'd get like a little highlighting or whatever, but I think it's worth trying. But I think the big thing is to also make sure you're taking measures to balance your stress levels. I think that's going to be critical. Okay. So let's see. Palantric just had a comment. Thank you, Dr. Mel, for being awesome. You're welcome. Thank you. And then Mangomia says, thank you for all you do. I watch every day. Oh, thank you so much. She says, would you want to do a video on POTS? Yes, I actually want to. One of my videographers that I've worked with in the past, especially when I've done events and things, she has POTS, and I actually want to get her on. I want to get her on the other side of the camera and talk about it. She has gone through in the last year. We haven't worked together because of her POTS, and just a whole bunch of stuff that's happened with her. But I think she would resonate to a lot of people, and she's young. She's in her 30s. So it's definitely something I've thought about for sure. Okay, Sydney Carton 1000. Is chronic facial puffiness and fatigue symptoms with smoking? Yes, it can absolutely be. Hey, buddy. Sure. Do you want to say hi to everybody? Yeah, hold on one second. I say hi. I don't know if they can see you. Yeah, there you go. Hi. You're not, honey. Oh, that's not very nice.
I'm only here upstairs.
Of course. You just use me for my suck-ons. Will you close my door, honey? Thank you. Oh, what was that? Oh my gosh, one of my things. Let's see, my Juzo board. Okay. I watch every day from Guatemala. Love you, Dr. Melissa. Thank you. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Okay, so YouTube is buffering. Oh man. Okay, well, hopefully it'll be okay. Okay, so let me go back to some more questions here. Okay, so puffiness, facial fatigue, all that can, yes, definitely be related to smoking. Also, your rebounding video helped with drainage in the neck significantly, but less so in the face. So I actually have video content about like some of my first, like I think my like second or third video on YouTube on this channel, I did the draining video. So I talk about the watersheds, doing the sevens, draining, literally using your hands, no oil, no water or anything, just straight out. You can drain your face. I do it and I will get sinus congestion moving. It'll drain this sinus passage, this cavity, and will also get your ears popping. Fabulous. And I have several videos where I highlight that. So definitely do check out my playlist about lymphatics for that. Let's see, were there any other questions? I think that was it. I printed them before I went live. So if you asked, since I printed at 8:17, I missed your question, so my apologies. Okay, Taryn G. Hey, Taryn. Hi, I love your video so much. Cute little heart emoji. Can you please tell me what natural I can take to balance my hormone? I'm a 50-year-old female, partial hysterectomy, but I have both ovaries. My OBGYN said I'm fine. Blood work is good, but I told her I don't feel like getting facial hair. Not bad, but a little hair. She said I can take a medication that they use for blood pressure. I mentioned the name on your live. I can't remember the name. Okay, so Shatavari is going to be your best friend. Shatavari, evening primrose oil, and it's a good idea to supplement with topical progesterone, especially with the hysterectomy. This is the one thing. Hysterectomies are violent for the body. They can cause all sorts of issues. We're now seeing women having to bolster, staple, what else do we call it? Sling the bladder, and that can be problematic. So just know that you've gone through a lot of stress and trauma, and you can definitely combat that by balancing your stress, but also adding those items in. Okay, so I'm going to answer 2 more questions, and then Instagram, you guys are going to go off. For everybody on Instagram, head over to YouTube. I'm going to keep going just on YouTube because we're going to hit our hour mark here. Okay, so how do you know if you have parasites? Best treatment. So you can actually do stool sample testing. That's probably the best way. And then also if you have parasites or spirochetes in your blood, like Lyme. Julie, Catherine, $5 live chat. Thank you so much. You can do live blood cell analysis. Oh, and Clive, I missed the super chats. I'm sorry. So I would definitely do stool sample, and then you could do live bloods to make sure there's nothing roaming through your bloodstream. Can you recommend a chewable or liquid supplement to help with hair loss? I can't take estrogen or progesterone. Liquid supplement. I'm trying to think of a liquid. I don't have a chewable, but the question would be if you could break open a capsule, could you add it in? The powder, you can make it a powder. full-fledged. Like there are some brands that I've highlighted. I'm trying to see if I have them here. I'll post on Instagram on my stories. I'll have a follow-up on that. Let me make a note. And what supplements to take for alopecia? Actually, I love homeopathics for alopecia. If you go to my Fullscript store, there's an alopecia homeopathic by Professional Formulas. Check it out. Okay, Instagram, I'm going to see you tomorrow. Tune in for UV therapy. Very beneficial. All right, see you guys tomorrow. Okay, so let me just, and I'm sorry I missed all the live chats because I'm on a different, I had a different window up, but Clyde Simmons gave me a $4 live chat. Thank you so much. I'm going to answer your question. Let me just quickly download this, and then I'm going to save Instagram TV. All right, let's see here. Save this. I'm just going to say Friday Q&A live. Thanks, you guys. If I don't do this, I lose it, and I've lost it a few times. Sometimes I get distracted. A little munchkin named Gabriel. Okay, let me do this real fast. COVID episode post. Okay, so Instagram's starting to do a little censoring about COVID, so that's real exciting. Okay, so Clyde, thank you for the super chat, $4.99. Would you recommend a go to bed with me skincare routine? Oh yeah, I totally could. And wake up with me. Let me write that down. Okay, so go to wake up. Absolutely. We could totally do that. It's going to take a little time. I have to restructure my business a little bit with all these changes. So, okay, let's see if there are any other super chats to answer. Okay, so, let's see. Ocean Flower says, I wish the majority of people would take this more seriously and not be in denial. How is this going to end if it keeps getting more and more severe and widespread? It is very scary. That's very true. I mean, we definitely are, we're dealing with a pandemic, and we have historical evidence. I mean, all you have to do is look at the Spanish flu, look at, in the US, cities who didn't take it seriously. And historically, they were in a mess. We are nationally in a mess, and we're in localized messes. Problem is we're moving and we have mobility across state lines. Vacations, I think this summer just need to be tabled. I mean, Brian and I keep having these conversations like this year's ruined. I mean, I'm positive, but sometimes it's just like, at the end of the evening, and I'm like logging all my notes for today, or like the next show the next day. It's just quite overwhelming. And you just want to say, what in the world? Like, why are people not wearing masks? And in fact, I posted on my personal Facebook page, and I'll post it to Facebook. So I posted it to my personal. I'll post it to my Facebook page, my business page. As Floridians, we get the ability to kind of laugh and like joke around about other Floridians, and we call them Floridas, like DUH instead of Florida. So there was a video that came out recently. Palm Beach County had their Palm Beach County Commissioner meeting where individuals from the community were petitioning the commissioners to not vote for face mask wearing. That's happening a lot all over Florida, and definitely in certain cities where the county commissioners and council members, however it works in your area, they're hearing testimony from people. And literally this video, it's a culmination of all these people who got up. And like the first quote on the video is like, this woman makes a comment, I mean, insane, about how, how she's treating mask wearing like how she treats, she makes a comment, I'm totally just butchering it, but she makes a comment about how, she's treating mask wearing like how she treats underwear wearing. And she's like, I don't wear underwear because sometimes you just have to let things breathe. Like that was her communication to the council members as to why not to be wearing masks. And then it got really, really dark with a lot of people. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I'm trying to really understand what is happening. And I was tempted to mention today, I held off on it because I don't want to offend anybody. I always do offend people, and it's just the way it is. But I didn't want to offend people by listing this in the COVID news section. But there have been 3 clinical studies about the type of information people are receiving. And there are certain news programming that would be listed as conservative that, and I'm not making any, assessment about it. This is all clinical research where they literally assess what's driving this thought pattern of people being so against wearing masks. And I even had a little Zoom like happy hour last night with some girls in the lymphedema world. And we were talking about it. And one of the participants last night said, I'm trying to remember like when they started to roll out seatbelt laws. Like, I don't remember that. I don't know when that was. I think it was like maybe around the time I was born, late 70s, early 80s, like seatbelt laws. I don't know when it was, but I don't remember it being like this, but I was also young or not born. But either way, she said, that was the only time I felt like people were reacting the way they're reacting now about masks. And she's like, and they came on board. Like you had to, like people got cited, they got ticketed. Nobody thought they'd get ticketed for not wearing a seatbelt. And she made some really valid points. And that is kind of, I think, what we're dealing with here in the mask world. The thing is, we just don't have time for people to just get on board with it. They need to do it. And the challenge is that there are people getting misinformation. And I'm at this point, and I have probably a viewer on here now who saw me on Facebook on personal posts, like calling an individual out for just spewing misinformation. Non-clinical individual doesn't really know what, he's talking about. And the concern is that people who don't know that he doesn't know what he's talking about are going to believe this BS about masks causing oxygen flow issues and that COVID is the flu because the death rate isn't what the previous death rates of pandemics have been. We're not even done with it. Like, we can't get a snapshot. We are in it. We are in the ketchup bottle. You can't read the label until you get out of it. We're not in it. So this whole idea that it's just the flu is just so bogus. And that's the thing that really kind of gets me upset, like when people do that. So anyway, that was just a commentary. Let's see. Okay. Let me go to some questions. Let's see here. Let's see. Yeah. So asymptomatic, I'll just make some notes about that. I saw Christine's comments. Asymptomatic cases we're learning more about them. Even though they're asymptomatic, COVID has taken effect in their body and has ravaged the body. We're seeing lung damage. And also what this doctor wants to do is he also is recommending MRIs for asymptomatic cases. I'm curious about we already know if the lung in an asymptomatic case is being affected, the brain will, because that would be that stage 2, potentially stage 3 of the neuro-COVID. So, the asymptomatic cases could just be as potentially long-term damaging. We just don't know. We don't have enough time. Could I please link the study mentioned? Yeah, so the study, I'll link it after the fact, but you can go to https // or www.j-alz.com. Actually, I'm going to type it in down here so you guys got it. And I think you have to go to like choose a printer option. Every journal lets you print differently. Some I belong to, and so and that's another kind of point. I know a lot of you are like, I can't access it, but sometimes you actually have to pay. You have subscriptions to get access. I think that's a link that I've got for it, so check it out. Okay. Can dust storms cause sickness and COVID? Yeah. So the dust storm, so it's called the Sahara dust that's coming our way. And that actually might be why I'm feeling like a little hoarse for some reason. I haven't really taken into account of that, but I'm like outside all the time in my garden with Gabriel. One of the things that we need to consider are the asthmatics and the folks that have breathing problems and any of the underlying conditions of respiratory diseases or imbalances. From scarring, previous infections, current infections, it could definitely be a factor. But what I will say, the benefit here is that wearing masks will be protective. So I do like that we can say, okay, concerned about Sahara dust, maybe not so dust, maybe not so much about COVID. Wear the darn masks. So definitely. Okay. Yay, Nissan GTR watching in Oregon. Appreciate, love you, Woodbridge, Virginia. Thanks, Shelby Williams. I forget, when is the best time to take the butter pills? Oh, Paradise Save. Okay, so the best part is to take them away from fat soluble vitamins. So don't take it with your D or your K. Sometimes D and K are together, like the previous question. So take it away from fish oil. I take it, honestly, I kind of take it at my midday snack. A lot of times I'll have my collagen enhanced butter. It's my collagen protein. And I need to post that. I actually have coupon codes. We're starting to get a little bit more strategic and planned out with our posts on Instagram, because now we have the swipe up. So I have all these coupon codes and links to awesome vendors. I just need to compile. But I usually will take that at that time. Butter oil. Butter oil is very rich in vitamin K, vitamin D. I take the fermented vitamin, or the, not fermented. It's the butter oil. It's all organic. It's kind of like ghee, but it's made out of, I think, Wisconsin or Ohio. But there's a company called Green Pastures that is fantastic. And their butter oil is beneficial for any of you who have concerns about like arteriosclerosis, clotting, all of those kind of blood, vascular, kind of cardiovascular diseases and illnesses. I have a TikTok about me and the coronavirus. It's just Dustin Barely. Okay, I'll have to take a look at it. I have friends wanting me to get onto TikTok. I can't manage another thing. We have like we have a Facebook group, Facebook page. We have the private community, Instagram. LinkedIn is a mess. So LinkedIn's not even accurate in terms of like my credentialing and my schooling. And sometimes it like, I've got to fix that. I've gotten some flack for that recently. Okay. IC 2009 BA. What test from your office would you recommend for my big stomach fat? Thank you. So I would, like for any type of like mid body, excess where you feel like you're holding more weight mid body, that has to be cortisol in its orientation. So I generally will run the adrenal profile or the cortisol profile. It's a 4-panel saliva test with also we'll run DHEA. That's a hormone also manufactured by the adrenal glands. It tells us an indicator of signaling to the neurotransmitters. So there could be some of those imbalances as well. But that's one thing. We do have a weight profile that gets a little bit more specific also into some of the hormones. Just kind of, it depends on each person. So Clyde, definitely I will do the skincare routine for sure. What about rosacea? How to clear up my face? Okay, so with rosacea, let me see. Oh, I finally have it here on my desk. Okay, so I can't remember my coupon code, but I will find it. My friend here in Atlanta she has a company called Beauty in the Raw, and it has a hemp infusion. So take that as the three little letters, C, and then the middle D. The middle is the second letter of the alphabet. I can't really say that on YouTube because of censorship, but this is fantastic. She actually infuses you can kind of see like this is a really beautiful oil. This would be the oil that I would recommend for rosacea. So very anti-inflammatory for the face. If you have spots like on an elbow or arm or hand, leg, this could also be beneficial, but I love that topically. And then also if you want to kind of move it even further, you can do the microneedling and then put the serum in after. Fantastic stuff. So that you can use on the face for anti-inflammation. And also cut all hot spices. Sometimes rosacea gets kicked off by that. Okay, Taryn, I answered your question. I'm sorry, I'm really going back on these chat. Okay, so let's see here. Gabriel, he's so funny. Osteopenia. Okay, so blessed indeed. Osteopenia, should I be taking calcium and minerals with my D3 and K2? I would take, it was less so much calcium. In fact, there's more and more evidence that we are having an overabundance of calcium that can't be articulated. So I would rather you not take the calcium, take the D, the K, and the multi-minerals. And then that helps articulate those. I mean, you think about it, especially a standard diet, and I'm not saying that you're on it, but we have a lot of enhancements where there is a lot of calcium. And then also a lot of my vegetarian vegans, they're going to be consuming a lot of calcium from some of the natural products. We just need to be able to articulate that. Any plant-based collagen? Unfortunately, no, I don't have a good option for that. Steph 23. Let's see. Maria, I'm not really quite sure what you're talking about. There are no spikes. We spread it, but protesters don't spread it. So there's actually been some research. Protesters, one, it's outdoors, and many of them are, I mean, you see a great percentage, probably in the 90s, wearing facial masks. And even with outside, they're wearing eye covers. That's very good practice. So being outside, the thing that's very bad for the protesters is, and this has been notated also, I've talked a lot about this, pepper spray, the use of, so pepper spray and tear gas, and then the low-flying military helicopters. That's not good for protesters in terms of the spray, just moving that air. So just FYI, that is one of the reasons why we're not seeing links yet. But again, the other thing too, we have to note with this virus, we have to give it about 3 to 4 weeks before we start to see a potential surge, because the incubation time's 14 days. We need then for them to have it, start to develop the symptoms, usually 5-7 days, they have to be hospitalized. That's when we see it. 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we start to see that. So the numbers are still out. And then also, here's the other challenge we have is we don't have states that are doing what they need to do about contact tracing. And the big question is their apps, but are these people trained well? And I'm reading more about that as well. So, it's very different when you're outside in a park setting and taking proper precautions and social distancing. And it's hard to see, like when there's a scan of big groups of people, it's hard to see, are they 6 feet apart when, that view is, several hundred feet up. So I just want to put that out there. We have to have some perspective on that. And I totally support all the protesters. Just want to let everybody know, support of them. We are not doing that in our house, but we are protesting in other ways. So just FYI. Okay, so yeah, so I just read an article that protesters are not spreading it with thousands marching. So Maria, that's why the masks and eye protection. I mean, and honestly, you see snapshots depending on where they're at. Some people are in full blown like gear, like really, really protecting themselves. And I think that is the other thing. The protesters understand they're taking a risk, but they're standing up for something that is absolutely critical and important to them. And so they're weighing the risks. And this is what we all do. I mean, protest or grocery shop. The reality is, my sense is grocery shopping is more risky. The risky points are traveling, and there's more and more discussion. There's a whistleblower right now at TSA. I want to wait and see that develop more before I start kind of pushing out info, but read about it last night that TSA in the early stages when spring break was really happening, and we do see a lot of contact tracing to spring break, the TSA did not have the right PPE. And things that we don't even think about, like they do a bag search because you forgot to take out something or whatever. They're touching potentially like stuff that your saliva that could have respiratory particles on it. And then they have to get rid of gloves. Well, they weren't given gloves. And some of them weren't even given masks now they should all have it, but that was not in the beginning. And that's a concern. So there's just different degrees. Okay, so you said to change vitamins and supplements occasionally, but my PSA dropping 2.5 first time in 3 years. So just keeping the same brands. Yes, I would, Dwayne. You're doing something really great. So keep doing it. I'm very excited. I'm very proud of your PSA. Yay, good job. Because that number keeps them away from doing unnecessary procedures to your prostate. Yeah, thanks for the likes, everybody. Let's see. Madonna has a Corona song. I haven't seen that. Pitbull. I love Pitbull. By the way, I don't know if you guys see that right there. I've met him. He's one of my favorite. He's like literally one of my all-time favorite singers. I love him. And I met him. And he has a Corona song too. If I were to do TikTok, I'd lead TikTok with a coronavirus song by my favorite Pitbull. I love his message. Let's see. Yes, I do have a lot of topics. A lot of times if I don't answer a question, I might have it in previous lives, and I for sure have it in my catalog, a lot of different playlists. Yeah, love Bob Marley, One Love. That's a good one. That reminds me of Key West. I always like the kind of reggae. I love it. Oh, you guys are so cute. Taryn, thank you. So we have a $20 super chat. Who is that? Let's see. Let me get all the way down. Did you? Oh, Letitia Martinez. Good morning, Dr. Melissa. Good morning, Letitia. Thank you. Thank you for the daily lives and sharing every information with us all. It's truly appreciated. You're welcome. I am very excited. I'm waiting on an Etsy order. That is going to be my kind of protest involvement. I'm going to have a cute little Etsy shirt that I got supporting all of our viewers of color and all of our patients, all of our customers that are having challenges in the current state of COVID and not being necessarily represented in the health world. So stay tuned. I've got to track it. I ordered it on my phone. And so for some reason I have a different Etsy account on my phone. But it's supposed to come, I think, today. I'm hoping. I don't know. We've been having delays. Okay, so here we go. Flower MIJ. People returning to work in restaurant in California are getting sick. What causes this if they are doing all proper procedures? Well, more than likely they've had community spread. And that's where we are at. And so they may be taking precautions at work, but are they taking precautions in their social lives? And that is the one thing we have to consider. People in these working restaurants, they're not necessarily coming in and getting infected at their place of work. They're infected outside and bringing it inside. And the other thing that was made a note last night in our Zoom happy hour that I didn't even think about because we haven't eaten out since this happened. It's really great for our budget. I swear we are not spending nearly the amount of money that we did. Like all the after school stuff for Gabriel, and my green juice is on the run, and Starbucks runs, and puppuccinos and all that stuff. We add like doggy daycare. We're not doing any of that. So it's been good for our budget. But one of the things that one of the girls I was talking with last night said, it's like, well, okay, so let's talk about social distancing. Most of the restaurants in her area, she's like, we don't go out to town. People ask us to go out. And she's like, I'm not doing it. And she said, they eat out outside, but outside's near a sidewalk where people who aren't wearing masks are frequenting. And then you take your mask off, you're going to eat. You have potential exposure from people that aren't even in the restaurant. And like, how do you regulate that? Like, there are just so many different potential points of risk. Bathrooms are a point of risk. That could be another area. You think about it, you might take your mask off if you're in a restaurant. I mean, it's like insane to think. You might take your mask off, you might switch it, you might take your gloves off, you might run to the bathroom, you get exposure in there. So Mary Lou, here in California, people are not following proper protocol, wearing masks incorrectly. Yeah, that's a good point. Wearing it down here and as a thyroid protector does not count, does it? And they are allowed. Yeah, see, so the folks who aren't wearing the mask properly, they're not allowed into the stores. And actually, I think I mentioned yesterday, I had a call with one of my cousins in Florida, and she was she was talking about how somebody this is insane, in a doctor's office had a hole in her mask, and she's a front desk girl. How does that protect people? So, are you reusing the same thing? Are you not cleaning it? Like, it's insane. 4th of July is going to be very risky. I haven't really heard a lot of buzz about it, but yeah, that will be a super spreader event potentially. But again, outside, if people adhere to social distancing, that could be very good. So I don't know. I would love to see people in their cars watching the fireworks. I think that's a better way to go. I don't know if towns have that capacity. Shelby, people who are asymptomatic with lung damage, are they experiencing any issues or will they? So the study that I referenced, and I don't think I have it in here. I'm still floating between two offices here. We are still in the short-term part of it. So when they did CT scans, they show damage. Some have shown blood clots. So that is the one thing to note, that that will have long-term effect. I actually saw a post of somebody I follow on Instagram. They own a fitness, they're like CrossFitters, they own a fitness gym. She has COVID. She's recovering. Lung capacity still not where it was. I mean, this is like somebody who's hardcore training, full on operating on all cylinders, lung capacity A+, taken down for like 8 weeks. Craziness. Did I see 2009 BA state of Texas mandatory? Did they call it, or are you just recommending that? Because they need to. Dwayne, since my state, thank you, $20 super chat. I'm so grateful. Since my state is anti-naturopathic doctors, your advice has been a great help for me. Thanks again. Yes, a lot of states are not for us. They don't license us, which is unfortunate. And we are very prohibited in terms of what we do with our in-person practice. That's one of the joys and beauties of educational type of content like this, across state lines and into the international community. We have greater reach in that world. So thank you, Dwayne. I appreciate the super chats. You guys are so great. Kay Jefferson, the large fireworks shows have been canceled. Okay, well, that's good. I'm glad San Antonio has canceled them. Yes, that's good. And that's the one thing, like the local municipalities that feel like they can't implement, mandatory mask wearings, or maybe they voted against it, they can cancel things. And we're seeing this in certain areas where, and particularly in Houston, restaurants are closing. I mean, businesses are saying, I'm not taking the risk. And there is a financial cost involved. If you have somebody that tests positive, you might have to have everybody work from home. You're going to have to get cleaning in. You might have to take different precautions. You might have to close for a period of time. You might have to quarantine yourself. That is an economic risk that businesses have to weigh. And there's a big business burden. I'm just seeing businesses left and right at home closing, which is crazy. Lucian Ingoglia, thank you so much for the $10 live super chat. I'm grateful. Thank you. Okay, so what is the Facebook group for lipedema? It's called Lipedema Fitness. And oh, by the way, I'm going to be live on there on Sunday. I'll post a reminder on all of our feeds. I watch on my TV, but comment on my phone. Oh, that's funny. Oh gosh. So how big is your TV? I'm sure all my wonderful sunspots are showing up fantastically. I don't think they mandate in Texas. I know mayors are requiring businesses to mandate masks. And that is the one thing. We are seeing business fines. We're seeing business inspections. We're seeing licenses pulled, like the liquor licenses. Why not just have drive up to watch fireworks? I agree. I think it would be fabulous. I would love to see them do that. Yeah, I would love to see that. What do I think about schools opening up in the fall? Lots of anxiety. I feel it. We feel it as a family. We are in the decision mode right now of what we're going to do with Gabriel. I have a whole lot of friends with kids who are freaking out. Some counties are being more communicative than other counties about what they're going to do. There's a lot of question marks and unknowns, which is very stressful as parents, working parents, to try and figure out, well, how are you going to function? How do we do this? So I don't know. I mean, I think what we're going to see is what our school, Gabriel School, is rolling out: virtual, in-person options, elections for both and or one or the other. I think they have to have a virtual option because we know there will be people, and most of the time they're going to be the workers, the aides, the teachers, any of the staff that are in a school. The risk is high. And like we've had our school, they've replaced their HVAC. They've got an ionizer, UV filtration, process. They've got all touchless everything. But, how do you keep a 4-year-old from touching his friends and playing and, hugging and toys? Like, what does the school equipment look like PE class? How do we do PE class in a gymnasium? How do we keep, toys and things separated? Cubbies and lockers. Literally, questions were, well, are we going to our kids? Will our kids, because our school is nursery through 8th grade. And the question, we had a town hall on Tuesday where the head of school, the main principal, she went and is educating us about what their plan is, their investments. It's a little bit different because it's private school and we're paying our tuition. So there's a little bit more onus to us. We are a consumer versus just a taxpayer. I know that I'm not trying to offend there, but that is one of the things that the private schools, they're getting there's a lot of heat in terms of like, is it a financial worthy investment? As our college students assessing the same thing when it comes to school, university life. So, they're talking about the capital investments. And I mean, I don't see public schools doing a whole lot of the capital investments that we are lucky we're seeing our school do. But the big question was, what about lockers? What about outside time? What about how are they going to eat lunch? Well, they're all going to eat lunch in the classrooms. Okay. Will there be plexiglass dividers? Are the kids going to have to wear masks? Who's wearing masks? The teachers. How are teachers able to convey the nonverbal signs? Like, when a child's stepping out of line, you kind of give them a little look. How does that conveyed with a mask where they can't see every facial expression? How do you teach a child to learn to say words when you're trying to show them placement of their tongue and the mouth and you're under a mask? Like, those are the questions that a lot of parents are asking. I don't know. We don't know what that's going to look like. And for us, we are concerned for our safety, for, not just Gabriel's safety, but the potential risks we put Brian in. And then also, how does he do emotionally? Like, that's a really big concern of mine, as well as all my friends. I've, been chatting with them. The concern of the emotional state of children, how, like, when we've gone around and I get out of the car, I put my mask on. Like, I've gone to pick up things at people's porches, literally contactless. I mean, PayPal, Venmo, all that stuff, contactless. I just grabbed stuff. I got my gloves, I got sanitizer, all this stuff. But I still put a mask on because I'm in somebody else's space and I'm doing it. That's the habit now. And he doesn't like it when I put my mask on. Well, how is he going to like it when his teachers are wearing it and the principals are wearing it? And, we had him, he had OT and speech come in. How do we do that? We haven't even figured out how to do that virtually, but how do we do that in school? And school's shutting down how many people come into the school to minimize the exposure. There's just so many variables and so many things to think about as parents and teachers and kids. And I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that is the one thing that is causing me probably the most stress is how is that going to affect them long-term? How does that affect his socialization? Because we're not being social. How do we do that in a safe way? It's very, very challenging. Joanne, good questions about school. It is so sad. My junior in high school took welding online. So weird, no actual welding happened. That's wild. Yeah. And like, how do you do that at home? And here's the other thing. Let's talk about the racial socioeconomic divide. There are families that don't have internet access. There are families that don't have laptops, phones, and computers that allow them to log in online. That is a crisis in and of itself. And schools may or may not have the financials to support them. Then let's cross that into the school lunch program. That is sometimes the only meal some of these kids get that's nourishing. And sometimes it's the only meal. What are we going to do if schools have to close midway? And that is really awful. So good point, Doc. That's why I'm doing virtual interpreting from home versus at hospitals and medical offices. Hard to communicate with my mask on in many situations. Yes, absolutely. Joanne says, when my son was little, he was afraid of people with man that would come into playground, little kids playing around. Yeah. I didn't edit. I said he was afraid of people with masks if he couldn't see their face. Yeah. Yeah. Gabriel does not. He's like, take that mask off, mommy. Why are you wearing that mask, mommy? I'm like, somebody, I'm at where sometimes we'll drive through the Walgreens. I'll pick up like Epsom salts because it can fit through the little thing. And so we do that. We get out. I try and get him in the car. It's also helpful. He needs to take nap times. He's not doing it at home. So car riding is like my nap time go-to. It always has been. So we're more mobile that way. And he'll go, why are you wearing a mask? And I'm like, well, because I'm, the little window's opening and I'm just protecting myself. You never asked anything for breathing air. Let's see. You have to do welding in person? Yeah. It's crazy. Yes, I lip read, partially, no fun communicating. Yeah, and that is the one thing that folks with hearing impairments and communities that read lips, there was a young teenager that developed this like clear window that gets sewn into the mask. I love that. Let's see. Okay, so school is definitely the big issue. And nobody knows the answers. And like school, so I'll tell you an example, school camps. Our camp was closed. I mean, they're so on it. They closed it without any doubt. And that's why we're thinking school is going to be probably virtual, which that just didn't work for us. It didn't work for Gabriel. So my friends have their kids in summer camps in Florida. Florida has a bigger outbreak than Georgia, and yet summer camps are open. Here, kids are in, we've got soccer and basketball happening here. I don't know even how that's working, but whatever. But in Florida, they've got summer camps. Some of them have had the teachers test positive, camp gets closed. So, virtual, definitely, we're going to have a crop of kids that are more digitally oriented, virtually oriented. And that is going to be something that we're going to have to be very cognizant of. So I don't know. I don't have answers on that, friends. And that seriously is our biggest stressor right now is what are we going to do? How does it work? How do you protect your child? And the other thing too, like protect them health-wise, I want to protect his mental outlook. It is depressing. And I made a fatal mistake yesterday. We were out driving to pick up this one toy, and for me, like, I just want to make this all fun and have him have good memories. And so this one toy he loves, there's some show. Netflix is awesome. They've got all these great shows, very educational, very STEM oriented. So I was watching this show about these dinos that are like trucks, but they're also these like, power tools. So I find this toy and we go out to drive out there and we pass the school. We pass this one place that is like the tumble gym and he adores this place. They've got like this rope that kids like, go down on. And I mean, it's super fun. And we had him enrolled in a camp. And the last time the camp was canceled because of the beginning of the outbreak here in Atlanta. So I made a mistake of pointing out that that's where I was like, oh, we're near your camp. Or your, that tumble place. And then I said, oh, and it's closed. And before I could say, but they're going to reopen when it's safe. And because we talk about the virus, he just started crying. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm traumatizing my child by opening my mouth. But I know the reality is that it is very, very hard for kids to conceptualize what's happening. Even teenagers are having a hard time with this. I mean, that is critical. So, getting them out and getting them open to the outdoors and reconnected with nature. And even like one of our friends has talked about like us meeting together, bringing our little, tricycles or our, bikes with training wheels to an open parking lot and like driving, riding around so that the kids could be socially distanced and socializing. It's something we honestly are considering just so we can see as friends. So sad. Joanne says, so sad when I grew up. It was the baby boom. Kids were everywhere. Started to only have 1 or 2 kids. So my son had some friends, not like I had when I grew up in the Bronx in the 60s and 70s. Yeah, poor Gabriel. And he's an only child. So like this morning, I have my window of like mommy's working time as I'm writing all my stuff and printing out everything. And he's like, Mommy, play with me. And that's part of it. Like we were playing tossing things and like, he's got balloons that we've blown up. And he's like, hit the balloon, Mommy. And so, and that is our life right now, full time at home. I'm trying to edit. I'm trying to do all this stuff. It's like, oh my gosh. And then I read an email and I forget I've read an email or I have to respond or like I didn't hit send and I have lists and I'm still not getting stuff done. So it is, it's challenging. And our situation is not nearly as challenging as everybody else's. So we are very fortunate. Tanya, hey Tanya, I'm going back to work Tuesday for the school bus company to deliver food to homes. Let me go back to homes of the children who receive free lunch. Oh, that's so wonderful. You're doing such a good job. Sending all those kids lots of love and energy. Joanne, I never edit my phone. Changes slowly. Well, yeah, the phone's fabulous. Okay, so last question, then I've got to run. Any suggestions for anything natural for arthritis in my wife's hands? 2 things. Digestive enzymes would be great on an empty stomach at night. That helps some of the arthritic pain and inflammation. Also ginger tea, but you can also have her do a ginger soak. If you check out Instagram, I posted a story. I have a free download and you just swipe up and grab the download, or you have to register your email. We actually email you the download. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so friends, thanks for tuning in. I'm so grateful. Pat, thanks for staying on for so long. And for all of you who joined, stayed on, please give me a thumbs up, hit that share button. And thank you to Lucianne and Dwayne and Letitia and all of our super chatters that gave me live chats, Julie, Catherine, 20, and Clive Simmons. And I think that was it. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. I value each and every one of you. Tomorrow, stay tuned. I'm going to talk a little bit. Let me see if I can turn this on. I have my little UV wand. I'm still trying to figure this out. Hold on. Let's see. This is my UV wand. If I can figure out how to turn it on. It has a really cool function. I figured it out. I think I have to do 2. Yeah, here we go. This is a UV wand. So I could literally sanitize my phone like that. How cool is that? And this is a wand. So I'm going to talk about UV tomorrow. So tune in for that. And friends, thank you. I will see you guys all tomorrow. Happy Friday. Woo! Friday. Bye, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you, Pat.